Hello guys, this is Michael with Quiet Lawn. I hope you're doing well. This is another video in our pricing series, and in the last video we talked about how to do time studies to measure how long it takes you to perform the various jobs that you do, whether it be mowing or landscaping or whatever, and how to compile that data so that you can have a database that you can use to price future work more accurately. So that took care of measuring how long it takes to do your work actually on the job, but that is not all the time that's involved with doing the work that you do. There's other time off the job that you need to account for, and you make sure you're charging your customers for, to make sure you're recouping your cost and you're getting the profit margin that you desire. Those other inefficiencies like travel time, other stuff like that, are just normal part of doing business. You can't do without them. It's not like you can just instantly teleport yourself from the shop to a customer's property. You got to pay. You got to get paid for that time, and you got to make sure you're getting paid for your employees' time doing that, and for all the vehicle travel expenses, all that stuff. So real quickly here, I'm going to talk about a few of those other efficiencies that you need to make sure your price in. And I'm also going to, this is going to hopefully be eye-opening for you, and you're going to find ways that you can reduce these, because the ultimate goal is to have your guys spending as much time as possible doing work that produces income, and riding around in a vehicle, or wasting time at the shop, or doing some of this other stuff, or sitting at a gas station for 30 minutes every morning. That stuff is not producing any money. So hopefully this will be eye-opening for you, as far as like in your business, and you're seeing some ways that you can improve. But either way, if this is the way it is in your business, you need to make sure you're pricing for that, because whether you like it or not, you're having to pay your employees for that time anyway. So let's look at some of these other inefficiencies that we need to make sure we build into our pricing. This is based on just a normal 8-hour work day. If you're working 10 hours, fine, you can do it for that, whatever, but this is just a normal 8-hour work day like our team works. Some of those factors you need to consider, and you need to make sure you're including in your pricing, would be things like time getting in and out of your shop. So let me do this to make this easier to read real quick. Time getting in and out of your shop. When your guys come in the morning, they don't just instantly teleport into the truck and they're at the first job. They're going to spend some time coming in. They're going to be getting their route. They're going to be getting their snacks and waters for the day. They're going to be getting their equipment ready and loaded up. They're going to be doing all that stuff, and that time needs to be paid by somebody. And if you're not charging your customers for it, then you're paying it out of your bottom line, or whatever revenue you have if you're not profitable. So time getting in and out of the shop. Let's just say for this example that your guys are spending 15 minutes when they come in the morning. It's taking them 15 minutes to do all that stuff and get loaded up before they head to their first property. And it's taking them 15 minutes when they come back to put everything up and then clock out and get done. That's a pretty conservative estimate. I'd say probably some of you guys, might be spending a lot more than that. You guys might be spending 30 minutes, when they come in the morning, because they're clocking in and talking with each other, and you don't have an efficient setup for them to get going, so they're having to spend a ton of time loading mowers on trailers and doing all this stuff. But 30 minutes is a pretty conservative estimate. Next thing we need to account for is travel time between properties. Let's just say that this is a one-man mowing crew that we operate. Could be two, but a one-man mowing crew, and we're mowing 12 properties on average. And let's just say the travel time between each property on average is about 5 minutes. That's pretty low. Some guys are traveling 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes or more between properties, and you can see how that's just going to explode this number. But let's just say it takes you 5 minutes to get to the first property, and then 5 minutes to get to each one after that, and then 5 minutes to return to the shop. That's 65 minutes in the day that your guys are spending traveling. And if you got 2 guys on a crew, which is why we don't run 2-man crews, that's double that or more. That's double that amount of time. Let's account for breaks. You can do unpaid breaks. That's fine too. You're required to give a certain amount of breaks. They don't necessarily have to be paid, but let's just say you're paying the breaks. Let's just say that you're paying them for an hour of breaks during the day. A 30-minute lunch plus 3 separate 10-minute breaks. Maintenance, during the day they're going to have to do other stuff. If you might be doing some of this stuff, but your guys are going to have to, they're going to have to put gas in the equipment. They're going to have to refill their equipment. They're going to have to put string in the string trimmers. You might have them changing blades in the morning. You might have them washing the car off once a week. Like, all that stuff needs to be accounted for. And I'm being very conservative. Let's just say that's just 15 minutes a day. It's probably more than that. Here's another big one: gas station stops. Are your guys stopping and getting gas during the day? Are they going to a gas station every morning? Let's say they're spending 20 minutes a day doing that. This is why, well, I'll tell you in a minute, we'll look at all these numbers, but this is why we changed our setups and how we do things, because, all these inefficiencies that you're not considering are just bleeding out all the profit in your business, and, your guys are spending more time not working than working. But with these very conservative numbers, let's just add up all these extra inefficiencies, this non-billable time that we have here. If you add it up, that's 190 minutes in an 8-hour day. So what is that? 3 hours that your guys are spending of an 8-hour day that's not productive. So you can see total, that's about 40% of the day. That day that the guys are not being productive. So, it's very important that you account for that and you charge for that extra 40%. So in the previous video where I did the time study, and let's just say this property here, it was taking us 17 minutes to do. When I price that job, when somebody calls for an estimate, I need to go ahead and make sure I multiply that job out, and I need to add an extra 40% for it. I'm going to multiply it by 1.4. So let's say 17. Do the math on my phone. Instead of charging that job based on it taking just 17 minutes, I need to price that job based on it taking 24 minutes. So, this is all stuff that I need to make sure I'm charging for when I do the work. Now, your example may be much worse than this, or it could be a little bit better. If you're having a 2-man crew, you can quickly see how this could skyrocket. If your routes are not tight, you don't have efficient routes and you're traveling 10-15 minutes in between properties, or you're traveling 30-40 minutes to the other side of town to do a route, all this stuff can explode this percentage where your guys are spending half their time with windshield time, and you need to make sure you're charging for that. Now, when I started to look at this a few years ago, it changed the way I did my business, and I started to find ways that I could make this easier. I started to figure out ways I could help my guys get in and out of the shop quicker. Instead of having to load and unload equipment, our equipment is on the trailer. It's ready to go. The guys can just hitch the car up in the morning and pull off. Having snacks and waters right there at the shop where they can just load up quickly and not have to stop anywhere to get that stuff. Getting tight routes where we have multiple homes in each neighborhood, where I reduce our travel time to a few minutes between properties. Maintenance on stuff, trying to make sure that we have the equipment ready to go. We have everything they need so that they don't have to change it. Make sure everything's changed, the blades are sharpened, everything's done when they get there. Getting a pressure washer at the shop so the guys could quickly wash the vehicles when they do wash it once a week. And this big one, gas station stops. So, when we used to drive a big box truck, the guys would have to stop for gas every 2 or 3 days. And, you know how it is, with you and your employees, when they go to the gas station, they usually do it first thing in the morning, and they're going to go in there, they're going to use the bathroom, they're going to get some Monster energy drinks or whatever they get, snacks, and they're going to spend 30-40 minutes at the gas station. And that's just killing your profitability, because 1, they're not getting any jobs done, and 2, you're having to pay them to do that. So We switched to Toyota Priuses, which get like 45 miles a gallon. So our guys have to fill up that vehicle maybe once a month. So that greatly reduced the amount of wasted time that they were doing. Also, we went to P for P. So we pay our guys performance pay. So they get paid to get jobs done and be efficient. We don't just have them riding the clock, getting a set hourly pay the whole time. If they have, they're getting a percentage of that job, so they're incentivized to get to the job, get it done quickly, and they are required to meet or beat the budgeted time for that job. So that all that stuff helps. So you can see how you could, just make some changes in your business, and maybe this is much higher for you, 50% or more. You could quickly get that down to, 30, 40%. But point is, we need to make sure that we're adding this in for our jobs. So next video, I'm going to show you how we put these two things together. We're going to put the data from the time studies so that we can account for the time on the job. And then we're going to put together these other inefficiencies, and we're going to build a calculator that's going to help us to price our mowing jobs quickly and accurately just by putting in a few different details of the property, such as the square footage and those other things, like if they have a fence or they're on a corner lot, stuff like that. But also, our calculator goes much further than this, because with this example, this can change based on what part of town you're servicing. If I'm servicing properties that are close to my shop, within a mile, or two, and it takes us 5 minutes to get there, that's very different than if I'm traveling 45 minutes or 30 minutes across town and I've got an extra hour or more of travel time to service that property. With my calculator, it takes into account the distance from the shop, because I shouldn't be charging the person that lives right next to my shop the same price for the same size lawn as the person that lives on the other side of town, because it doesn't cost me the same amount to service that other property across town as it does the one that's right beside my shop. So when we build our calculator, it takes into account distance from the shop, and it's going to add a percentage of inefficiency the farther a property is from our shop, because we want to make sure we're getting paid for that time, because it does cost us more to send our employees across town than it does to send them to the neighborhood right close to us. We're going to go through that. We're going to build out that calculator, and hopefully this will help you with your business, help you to be able to price more accurately. And if you have any other questions, any comments, any suggestions, please leave them below. The next video I'll make will be going over that calculator and how to do that, and then we'll just keep going from there. Thanks for watching. I hope you're all doing well. Have a great day.